Welcome back as we continue our coverage from Denver International Airport, where overnight a Frontier Airlines plane hit and killed a pedestrian on the runway. Joining me today is 9 News aviation expert Greg Feith, who has a whole lot of background in the investigations around incidents with planes. Thanks for coming in. Gosh, this is such a terrible case. Let's just start off with that. This is very unusual, but not a first-time situation.
These are rare events. The fact that we have perimeter fences around a lot of airports, especially international or Part 139 airports like Denver International, it is to keep people out. It is to protect the operational area. And so now the question is, how did this person get into the operational area? If they scaled the fence, they had to scale a 12-foot fence with razor wire on it. And that's not an easy feat.
No, and I want to know more about like some of the questions that will be part of this investigation. The first being, how did they even get on the runway? What else do you think they're going to really be trying to figure out?
The biggest thing is security.
Yeah.
What is the operation for DIA? They do perimeter security. The operations group at DIA will typically drive around. And then, of course, they're going to be looking for any kind of breach in the fence. They're going to look for exactly what happened with this person getting into the operational area, but they're going to look at his background. Was he inebriated? Was he trying to do this, as a suicide? I've done a number of these where I had a couple of inebriated guys climb the fence at Los Angeles International Airport, playing chicken with a landing airplane. One of them won, the other one lost, unfortunately, and was killed.
Wow.
So, I mean, these are rare events, but the biggest question is, how did this person get out there? How did they, of course, access the runway itself? And what was the intent? Why?
Yeah, why? Talk about, from the pilot's perspective and air traffic control, things, very rarely humans, but things end up sometimes on runways that aren't supposed to be there. We've talked about animal interactions, right? What happens in the cockpit as something like this happens? I mean, and are pilots trained for the unexpected on the runway?
Pilots are trained for the unexpected because you never know when you're going to have wildlife. Of course, I've done a number of accidents where we've had large deer and that kind of thing run across a runway and get struck. It's one of those things where it's a startle effect because you're not expecting it as a pilot. It's at night, you have all the landing lights on, so you're illuminating that runway. You're expecting it to be clear. And then all of a sudden there's an object there. By the time a pilot or human processes that and then tries to react to it, most likely because of the acceleration of the airplane, it's too late, and you can only do what you can do. And in this case, you can't steer the airplane around that object. It's impossible. We saw that with LaGuardia.
And it's like when we talk about much smaller scale, but trains hitting things, like you can't slow down the bigger vehicle at that point. You're just preparing for the after part. When
you're looking at 100,000, 100+ pound aircraft that's accelerating and then try to decelerate it and then try and steer it, it's impossible. You can't do it.
This is kind of the after part of the story, but now you've got a plane full of people that have to safely get off the plane, and there were injuries in that process too. We're hearing about smoke in the plane. I'm not sure what the reasons for the injuries. Was it the smoke? Was it people coming down the slide? But that's a whole component of training and risk too. There's risk there.
Absolutely, and that's what the NTSB and the FAA will be looking at, is why these injuries occurred. The fact that there was a vent with an engine that sparked a fire, which is indicative of the fact that they struck this person, and that's what caused the engine problem. Now they have to stop the aircraft, they initiate the evacuation. We have seen this before with people trying to grab all their carry-ons, people fighting to get out to an emergency exit because they believe that the aircraft may be on fire. So it's not an orderly process. They're trying to go down the slides, and if they don't go down the slides properly, feet first, they will end up tumbling down the slides and they get injured. So there's a lot of survivability factors that the NTSB should be looking at with this.
Okay, this is a really wild story too.
It is.
And Greg, we know you've seen a lot of various investigations related to the air industry. Thank you so much for coming in today. We appreciate your expertise.
You're welcome.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.